What's up guys, Everything Apple Pro here. There's only 2 weeks left until this guy is going to be unveiled. In this video, we're going to be talking a lot about the software. In several reports, a lot has surfaced about the iPhone 8 and how it's actually going to work without a home button, the gestures, a lot of very interesting stuff that I'm actually very fascinated by it, and I'm going to be sharing it with you in this video. So lots to talk about, guys. Let's jump right in. This is going to be one of the last updates before the iPhone 8 is here. We've got 2 weeks left to go. So in a new report by Bloomberg, it's a very detailed look at the software side of iOS 11 on the iPhone 8. Now, the very first thing that they addressed is the physical home button. Obviously, the iPhone 8 won't have one. This creates some sort of a problem. The Galaxy S8 handles it pretty well. How will the iPhone 8 work with it? Now, they said the very first thing that Apple thought about was a virtual on-screen home button. They quickly eliminated that in favor of gestures. So there won't even be a little circle down there for a home button. It'll be purely a gesture-based device, and we're going to get into those in just a second. But the concept we saw with that virtual on-screen home button, it just looked awkward. I mean, you have your button right there, and at the very bottom, it just seems to take up more space than it should. It's just unwieldy, and it shouldn't be there. Now, the way that these gestures are actually going to work is so incredibly simple. I didn't even think of it until I actually read this report. It's just like, wow, this is going to change the way you use your iPhone completely. So there's going to be a very thin little bar on the bottom of the phone, and I'm going to be sharing some concepts with you as I talk about this to make it easier. These were actually made by Olivier Charavel, I think that's how you say it, and they look fantastic. They give a very good visual representation on what Bloomberg is reporting on. So the report details that you will swipe up on that bar to unlock your phone. Once inside the home screen, you can actually click on an app, and then to exit it, just swipe up all the way. Now, if you swipe up about halfway, it'll activate the Control Center / App Switcher page, which from there you can go ahead and choose your apps. They said that the apps will not be in a card view on top of each other right now, how it looks currently in iOS 11, but instead will be full page apps that you can swipe through and click on them individually. So that's really, really cool, really simple. I mean, you don't need a home button when you have these amazing gestures to work with. And the reason Apple even removed that 3D touch on the edge in order to go to another app switcher is because gestures are going to be so much simpler on the iPhone 8. True, I don't think that all the other devices should suffer and get that feature removed, but it definitely makes sense as to why they removed that in the iOS 11 betas. And the interesting detail is that when you actually swipe up inside of an application to close it, there's a very interesting shrink animation where the app will go ahead and shrink back into the icon. I'm guessing a little bit more refined than how it looks right now. So that's going to be really cool to actually see. And Steve TS, a developer that actually leaked a lot of iPhone 8 features from the HomePod code, said that this is actually his best bet on how the iPhone 8 will look like in the final release with its version of iOS 11, of course. And a very interesting little detail, because the virtual home button won't exist on the iPhone 8, on the bottom portion of your apps, you're going to get a little bit more room for the tabs, as can be seen in this concept. It's a very interesting little side effect of having no home button. And a Verge editor actually noticed a very striking similarity with a product I never thought I'd talk about on this channel again, the Palm Pre. It actually had a feature, a little bar very similar to this one shown in these concepts that you would slide up on, and it would actually activate the app switcher card view for the applications. And now we're seeing it about 7 years later in the iPhone 8. That's just kind of a coincidence. Very interesting to see that happen, but that device was pretty cool. If you remember, the Palm Pres were actually pretty awesome. And the crazy thing is, we knew about this before this report even happened because of the iOS 11 beta prototype videos. They detailed this very same gesture behavior. Now it's been confirmed by Bloomberg that there will be no virtual home button and that this is going to be the way the iPhone 8 works. And a very interesting little tidbit from the Bloomberg report, why the iPhone 8 is going to have the longer home button. It's about twice as long as the one on the iPhone 7 right now. They say it's just to make pressing the power button easier with one hand. Apple wants to focus on making this device very comfortable to use with one hand, and the power button is where they start. Previously, in a different report, we heard it would have 2 contact points inside, so it definitely will be easier to press with one hand. Now, in recent weeks, there have been many reports that have downplayed the significance of the display of the iPhone 8 it being larger, 5.8 inches, but it still doesn't display the content the same way the iPhone 7 Plus would, meaning everything would be shrunk down. It just gets taller, not wider. Now, Bloomberg is saying that your content, your apps will actually have much more room for you to scroll in. You'll see a lot more information, text messages, call logs, just a bunch of things in a scrollable format will be more visible. Basically, it's going from 647 points to 762 points of information on the display that you can see. The odd thing is, though, that Apple will still be keeping 6 vertical rows of apps, meaning 24 apps on the home screen per page. For a device with a longer screen, you'd think that it would accommodate for more apps, but no, this is what it's going to look like. A 7-row format, as shown by Vania Geskin, shows that it would be a little bit more compact. I don't think that would be a bad look, but Apple's just trying to go for simplicity, not overstuffing the home screen on the iPhone 8. Let me know what you guys think. Would you rather prefer a 7 or 6-row format? And a very cool one, the iPhone 8 has been confirmed by Bloomberg to get the dock, very similar like to the iPad. Now what they said is a gray bar at the bottom that houses commonly used apps. The dock is redesigned with a new interface similar to the one on the iPad version of iOS 11. And in a simulation, the developer Rambo has actually shown us what that would look like on the iPhone 8's display, and it looks really good. It'll basically work with a slight swipe up, and within applications, it'll hide, of course, and you can summon it when you need. You can switch through apps easily just like that. It makes sense. It would perfectly work on a device without a home button. He actually shows us many different versions of it, but he says that in the simulation, it would be limited to 4 apps on the left side, the static ones, and then 3 in the recents. So I think that's going to be a really awesome feature of the iPhone 8, having the dock that I fell in love with on the iPad. Really, it's made the iPad experience so much better, and I can only see it improving the iPhone one as well. Now, Bloomberg has detailed what Apple will do with the top cutouts, the sensor bar on the iPhone 8. First off, they said that Apple will not be hiding it, they will be embracing it. Internally they call it the ears of the iPhone, and Apple is not going to be trying to hide that. In applications that have black backgrounds, it will blend in, but on most applications with white backgrounds, it will not be blending in. So that concept I showed you guys a little while ago is not true. Apple is going to embrace as much screen estate as they can, showing you the beauty of that OLED panel. And this is something I've been wondering for the longest time. How will the status bar work? Bloomberg is saying that the time will be on the left. Everyone was saying, where is the time going to go? It used to be in the middle, but now we know it'll be dedicated to the left. On the right, you're going to be seeing your signal bars, the battery life, and any other mini icons. It seems the left will be reserved for the time. Now, they're also saying that it can be adjusted and switched orientation depending on what you're doing, what kind of notifications you have, just all those little factors considered. The status bar will be very dynamic. And a couple little details about the display. Of course, they said that it will blend perfectly with the bezels. So I have a black iPhone 8 dummy right here, and you can just barely tell where the screen ends and the bezels begin. Now, Bloomberg says that blend will be there perfectly because of the OLED technology, something we kind of already assumed, but also they're saying it will be a perfectly flat display. So that curve we talked about a long time ago will not be happening. Apple is going to stick to their guns on flat displays and not copy Samsung with the edges. So that's the software side of things. Very exciting to learn about how the iPhone 8 will actually work. And yes, this is very reliable information. Bloomberg has hardly been wrong in the past, and they're talking to insiders about this. So I do trust this information. And with just 2 weeks to go, most of the information that comes out now does usually prove to be correct. Now, next I wanted to talk about this. It caught my eye. Vania Geskin shared an image or a video of a new iPhone 8 clone version. I already shared one with you on this channel. It looked awful. It worked awful. It was just, in every sense of the word, terrible. This one though looks a little bit better. It has an 18:9 ratio display, so definitely longer, more iPhone 8 style, but definitely not the edge-to-edge curved screen version. So it does look better. It probably works a little bit better. I'll definitely try to get my hands on it, but I'm just curious, will they be able to make a true infinity display, or whatever Apple will call it, and mimic that look on a clone that's going to be like $150 max? So Macatakara, a very reliable source, has released details about the wireless charging on the iPhone 8. They say it will be 7.5 watts. Now that isn't a lot. That's actually way behind the current standard, which is 15 watts with the QI 1.2 standard. That means it'll charge a little bit faster versus the standard plug that you get in the box, which is 5 watts, but it won't be a true fast charging experience. So that might be limited to just plugging it in with the wire. It's unknown why Apple did this, but they say it's likely because of the MFI licensing and stuff like that. They couldn't figure that out. Maybe next year we'll get a faster version. And a small tidbit they threw in there, with this same charger, you might be able to charge your Apple Watch and your iPhone. So it might just be a pad you lay both on and they'll charge simultaneously. Now about this actual event, in the last video we learned it would be happening on September 12th. Now Wall Street Journal is also confirming from their sources that indeed September 12th it will be. So expect an official invite to the keynote any day now. Also, Vania Geskin did share that O2 has confirmed to its employees that the actual release will be on the 22nd, which perfectly lines up with the pre-orders on the 15th and then a release later on the 22nd. And the Wall Street Journal said that even though the Steve Jobs Theater right now is still ongoing construction, it will be finished in time for the event in just a couple weeks time here and will take place there. Some recent schematics have leaked showing the overall orientation of it. And by the way, these are rare. These don't leak often for Apple's actual event centers, but take a look at this. Looks kind of interesting. Part of it goes underground, so that's some very sophisticated engineering for that. And lastly, this is kind of funny. Everyone is always trying to beat Apple to the punch. MemeMix is announcing their new MemeMix 2 the day before the iPhone event on September 11th. This one is supposedly going to have the largest screen to body ratio in any smartphone today, and I'm sure it's going to be an amazing phone. I loved the first one. Can't wait to get my hands on that one. Anyways, guys, there it is, the latest on the iPhone 8. A lot of new software stuff. It's definitely going to have a lot of cool tricks up its sleeves, and it's going to have a little learning curve, I'm sure, without a home button, but knowing Apple, they'll make it as simple as possible, and I can't wait to see it in actual live usage. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned, a couple of weeks to go. Peace.